Poor Nanny replaced her friend on a blind date. The CEO never wanted the night to end. The golden lights of the upscale restaurant shimmered against the crystal glasses, casting warm reflections across the white linen tables. The soft hum of piano music filled the space, wrapping gently around the quiet laughter and murmured conversations of elegantly dressed patrons. Near the tall window, Alex sat alone. His black suit was tailored to perfection, posture relaxed yet distant. As he glanced once more at the time, he sighed. A blind date. Another arrangement by friends who thought he needed someone normal in his life. He had agreed out of politeness, not interest. Outside, the wind swept fallen leaves along the sidewalk as Lila walked briskly, hugging her old coat tightly around her. Her dress was modest, her boots slightly worn. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen, then answered. Maya's voice, weak and hoarse, came through. I can't go, Lila. I've got a fever, like burning up. Please, can you go for me? Just sit for a bit, say sorry, and leave. Lila hesitated on the corner, wind pushing strands of hair into her face. Maya, I can't pretend to be you. What if he realizes? Just say you're my friend. Tell him I'm sick. Please. Just this once. I'd owe you big time. Lila sighed, glancing toward the restaurant down the block. Fine. 1 hour. I'm not promising more. You're the best, Maya croaked. Then the line went dead. Still clutching her phone, Lila walked on, her steps uneven. She didn't like deception, pretending was never her strong suit. But Maya was like a sister, and saying no had felt colder than the wind biting her fingers. As she approached the crosswalk, a small figure caught her eye. A little boy, sitting on the sidewalk, knees pulled to his chest, coat torn, and barely covering him. He stared at the sandwich in her hand like it was gold. Lila slowed. She looked at the boy, then at the sandwich, then back. Her heart tugged. Kneeling down, she extended it to him. Here, it's still warm. Take it. The boy looked up, hesitant. Are you sure? I've got dinner, she smiled. You probably need this more. He took it with wide eyes and whispered, Thank you. She gave his shoulder a gentle squeeze before standing and walking on. Across the street, in the back seat of a sleek black car, Alex glanced up from his phone. Through the window, he saw her, thin coat, kind eyes, the way she crouched to speak gently to the boy. He watched her hand over the food and smile without waiting for thanks. Something stirred in his chest. He blinked once and looked away. Inside the restaurant, Lila stepped through the revolving door, cheeks flushed from the cold. The host greeted her, and she hesitantly gave the name Maya. Moments later, she was being led across the polished floor, her steps slowing as she saw him. Alex looked up. It was her. The same woman from the street, the girl with the sandwich, the kindness in her eyes now mirrored by surprise and uncertainty. He stood slightly, polite but curious, lips lifting in a faint smile. You must be, Maya? Lila paused, then shook her head with a small apologetic smile. I'm not. I'm her friend. Maya's sick. She has a fever and couldn't make it. She asked me to come and let you know. She looked embarrassed, clutching the strap of her bag. I really just came to say sorry on her behalf. I can leave. Alex studied her for a moment, then gestured gently to the chair across from him. Please, sit. You already came all this way. Would be a shame to let this table go to waste. Lila hesitated, then nodded and took the seat, still unsure. Are you sure? I'm not who you were expecting. He poured her a glass of water, his movements calm. No, you're not. He smiled softly. But I think I prefer the unexpected tonight. She blinked, surprised. You don't think this is weird? Alex leaned back slightly, gaze steady. I saw you earlier, with the boy on the street. That was not weird. That was kind. He paused, then added, made me think this night might turn out to be more interesting than I thought. Lila flushed, unsure what to say, There was something grounding in his voice, no judgment, only quiet curiosity. A comfortable silence settled between them, the music drifting around their small bubble. Alex lifted his glass slightly. To the unexpected. Lila smiled, nervous but warm, and raised hers. To fevers and sandwiches. He chuckled, the sound light and rare. Then he looked at her more intently. You know, he said, his voice quieter, I was ready for tonight to be another forgettable dinner. He paused, eyes never leaving hers. But now I am not sure I want this night to end. Her breath caught. And for the first time that evening, she truly smiled. The waiter arrived with the menus, placing them neatly before Alex and Lila. She opened hers slowly, eyes scanning the elegant dishes and their not-so-elegant prices. Her fingers lingered over the cheapest item, soup and a small salad. I'll have the vegetable consommé, she said, setting the menu down quickly. Alex looked at her, then at the menu again. He signaled to the waiter before she could change her mind. She'll have the pan-seared sea bass, he said gently, then turned to Lila with a faint smile. It's light and really good here. The soup's mostly hot water. Lila's cheeks flushed. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, he said simply. The waiter nodded and disappeared. A moment of quiet passed, filled only by the low hum of conversation around them. Lila looked down, her hands resting carefully in her lap. She hated feeling like she owed anyone, especially a stranger dressed like success itself. Alex, sensing her discomfort, spoke softly. So what do you do? Lila lifted her eyes. I'm a nanny. He nodded, as if that answer carried weight. For how long? About 3 years now, she replied. Right now I'm taking care of a little girl, Lucy. She's 5, full of questions, loves dragons, hates milk. He smiled at the image. Her mom's away on a work trip, so I'm staying with her until she comes back, just for a few weeks. You live there with her? For now, it's easier that way. Lucy has nightmares sometimes when her mom's gone. Alex's expression didn't change, but his eyes softened. You must care about her a lot. I do, Lila said, voice quiet but sure. She's not mine, but she's mine. You know? He gave a small nod. Yes, I think I do. The waiter returned with their drinks. Lila took a small sip of water, trying to steady the fluttering in her chest. Alex hadn't flinched at her job, hadn't blinked at her temporary living arrangement. Just listened. Then, chaos struck. A man from the bar, clearly drunk, shirt unbuttoned too far, tie loose and stained, staggered near their table. As he bumped into a server, the tray tilted, sending a glass of red wine crashing to the floor. The noise startled Lila. She pushed her chair back slightly, heart racing. The man, off balance, stumbled forward, straight toward her. Before she could react, Alex was already on his feet. In one smooth motion, he stepped between her and the man, one arm slightly extended. Excuse me, Alex said, calm but firm. She's with me. The man blinked, disoriented, then mumbled something and turned away, bumping into another chair on his way out. All eyes in the surrounding area turned briefly toward their table. Then, as quickly as it had risen, the tension melted, and the room resumed its rhythm. Alex turned back to Lila, crouching slightly beside her chair. Are you all right? He asked, voice lower, more intimate now. Lila nodded, breath caught in her throat. Yes, I think so. He reached for her water glass, offering it to her with a steady hand. She took it, fingers brushing his. Thank you, she murmured. It's nothing, he replied, but no one should lunge at you without consequences. She smiled faintly, trying to ignore how warm her face felt. As he returned to his seat, their eyes met across the table again, and something passed between them, quiet, wordless, but unmistakable. Lila picked up her fork, pretending to focus on the bread basket, but inside, something in her had shifted. She had walked into this evening planning to deliver a polite apology and disappear. Now, she was not so sure. After dinner, the sidewalk felt quieter, softer beneath their steps. The night air was crisp, filled with the scent of fallen leaves and distant street food. Golden lamplight spilled across the narrow path as Alex and Lila walked side by side, their pace unhurried. Alex had suggested it casually. "It's still early. There's a small park 2 blocks away. The trees are beautiful this time of year." To his quiet relief, Lila had nodded. Now, silence stretched between them. Not uncomfortable, just still. A few leaves floated down like soft confetti, brushing against Lila's shoulders. She caught one in her hand and smiled. "Lucy would love this," she said suddenly. "Lucy?" he asked. "The little girl I told you about, the one I'm nannying." Alex turned slightly, giving her his attention. "She's 5. Smart, a little bossy," Lila chuckled. "But in a funny way. She insists bedtime stories must have dragons, and she's currently protesting milk on the grounds that she is, quote, not a baby cow." Alex laughed. "A real one. She sounds like trouble." "She is," Lila grinned, "but the best kind. She asked me once if people could be family without being born together. I told her yes. I hope she remembers that." Alex was quiet for a moment. "I like that," he said finally. "Family. By choice." She glanced up at him. "You have any family?" He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "My mother, we're cordial, businesslike. My father passed away when I was 19. Lila's expression softened. "I'm sorry." "Thank you," he said, voice quieter. "He left me the company. I was thrown in faster than I was ready for. Spent years learning how to act older than I felt. Still doing that, probably." They turned a corner into the park. It was nearly empty. Just a few benches, some trees, a small pond reflecting the city's light. The breeze rustled the branches above them like whispers. "I used to think I'd feel more accomplished by now," Alex admitted. "But some days, the silence is the loudest thing." Lila looked at him. "That's the loneliest kind of noise." He met her eyes, surprised again by how easily she saw through things. They walked a little farther. The leaves on the ground grew slick from the day's drizzle. Suddenly, Lila's foot slipped. She gasped softly, arms flailing for balance. Before she could fall, Alex reached out, steady, firm, and caught her by the arm. "Careful," he said, holding her close. Lila steadied herself, one hand on his chest. Her breath caught. Their eyes met. There it was again, that moment. That pause in time where nothing moved but the sound of 2 hearts realizing they had company. "Thanks," she whispered. Alex didn't let go right away. Neither did she. They slowly parted and continued walking, their steps closer now, rhythm almost in sync. As they reached the edge of the park, under the soft halo of a street light, Alex turned toward her. "Lila," he said gently, "may I see you again?" She looked at him, searching his face. He wasn't charming her, he wasn't playing, he was just asking. And for a reason she couldn't quite name, she nodded. "Yes." The sunlight filtered through Lila's kitchen window as she poured orange juice into a chipped glass. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced down and saw Maya's name flash across the screen. "Hey," Maya said, voice stronger now, almost back to normal. "Guess what? I'm finally fever-free." "That's great," Lila replied, trying to sound cheerful. "So I was thinking I could pick things up with that guy. Alex, right? Maybe message him and reschedule. I mean, you didn't stay long, right?" Lila hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the glass. "Yeah, I didn't stay long," she said softly. Maya laughed. "God, I hope he isn't weird or full of himself. But hey, it was just a blind date. No big deal if he was." Lila managed a small laugh in return. "Right, no big deal." She hung up a minute later, her chest tightening. She had not told Maya about the second dinner, or the walk. or the way Alex had looked at her under that street lamp, like she was the only thing still glowing in the world. Guilt prickled through her. She hated secrets. But she also hated the idea of losing Maya. 2 days later, Alex texted, "Lunch with me at the office? I want to show you something." Lila stared at the message for 5 minutes before replying. "Are you sure? I'm not exactly dressed for a corporate tour." "You're exactly who I want to see." That was how she found herself in the gleaming lobby of Hunter & Co., surrounded by glass walls, chrome fixtures, and people in suits who moved like they owned the sky. She shifted in place, smoothing her plain sweater. Her boots squeaked slightly against the marble floor. When Alex appeared by the elevator, she almost sighed in relief. He smiled. "Glad you came." As they stepped inside the elevator, a young man in a navy blazer joined them. He glanced at Lila, then at Alex, smirking. "You bringing your dinner dates to work now?" the man asked lightly. "Nice. She's the one from that fancy restaurant, right?" Lila froze. Alex's jaw tensed almost imperceptibly, but his tone remained even. "She's a friend of Maya's," he said calmly. The man raised an eyebrow, nodded, and got off at the next floor. The elevator doors closed again. Lila stared at her shoes. "I did not mean to make anything awkward." Alex shook his head. "You didn't. People talk. Let them." When they reached his floor, he led her to a glass-walled conference room overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking. Lila walked to the window, pressing her fingers lightly to the edge. "It's beautiful," she said. "So are you," Alex said, standing behind her. She turned, startled. He smiled softly. "I meant how you see things. It's different, grounded." She smiled back, unsure how to respond. Later that evening, back at home, Lila checked her phone again. There was a new message from Alex, short but sweet. "I'm glad you came today. I've been thinking about you." As she was replying, a new message popped up. This time, from Maya. "What the hell is this?" Attached was a screenshot of Alex's message to Lila. Her heart dropped. Moments later, Maya's call came through. Lila answered, hands cold. "You went back to see him?" Maya's voice was tight with disbelief. "After I asked you to go for me? You said it was just for a bit." "It was," Lila said quickly. "At first. But then, it just happened. I didn't plan it." Maya laughed, sharp and bitter. "So you went to one dinner, and suddenly he's messaging you about how glad he is you came?" Lila swallowed hard. "I didn't lie to you. I just didn't know how to tell you. You could have tried." Maya snapped. "You replaced me like I didn't matter, like I didn't introduce you to." "It wasn't like that," Lila whispered. "You know what? Maybe you deserve him. Maybe you two deserve each other." "Maya, please." But the line had already gone dead. Lila stared at her phone, her chest hollow. Her thumb hovered over the screen, but she did not call back. Outside her window, the city lights sparkled against the night sky, but Lila's world had never felt darker. Rain drummed steadily against the cracked pavement, filling the night with the sound of falling water. Lila stood beneath a flickering street lamp, one arm stretched over Lucy, the other holding a torn umbrella that barely shielded either of them. Her coat was soaked through, and the little girl clung to her leg, shivering softly. Lucy's forehead was warm, too warm. Lila glanced anxiously down the street. No taxi in sight. Her phone had died 10 minutes ago. Every passing car sent waves of water onto the sidewalk, but none stopped. Lucy whimpered. "It's okay, baby," Lila whispered, brushing wet curls from the child's face. "We'll be home soon." The child leaned into her. "I feel dizzy." Lila knelt, pulling Lucy close against her chest, trying to warm her with her own trembling body. Her hands were numb. Her heart was racing. She looked up again, hoping, praying, and then headlights. A sleek black car swerved toward the curb and braked hard. The passenger door flung open. Lila. She looked up, stunned. Alex? He was out of the car in seconds, coat flying behind him as he ran toward them. Without hesitation, he crouched beside her, his voice urgent, but gentle. She's burning up. Lila nodded, too shaken to speak. Alex shed his coat and wrapped it around Lucy, scooping her into his arms. Lila rose unsteadily, following him back to the car, legs heavy from cold and stress. Inside, the heat blasted, fogging the windows. Alex handed Lucy to Lila, pulling out his phone to check the traffic. Gridlocked, he muttered. We'll be stuck here for an hour, maybe more. He looked at her, rain still dripping from his hair. We need to move. Before she could ask what he meant, he opened the trunk and pulled out a second helmet. I keep a motorbike in the garage. I'll ride. You sit behind me with Lucy. In this weather, Lila blinked. Do you trust me? She hesitated only a second, then she nodded. Minutes later, they were flying through the streets on his motorbike, Lila clutching Lucy with one arm and holding tight to Alex with the other. Rain lashed their faces, wind tearing at their clothes, but the engine roared beneath them like a heartbeat, strong, steady, alive. By the time they reached her building, they were soaked to the bone. Inside the small apartment, Alex helped lay Lucy on the couch. She whimpered softly in her sleep. She needs something warm, Lila murmured. I'll make tea, Alex said without hesitation, heading to the kitchen like he had always belonged there. Lila peeled off her wet coat, teeth chattering. She knelt by Lucy and covered her with blankets. The little girl stirred, reaching blindly for Lila's hand. Shh, I'm here. Moments later, Alex returned with 2 steaming mugs. He handed one to Lila and sat down beside her, close enough that their knees touched. You didn't have to come, she said quietly. I know, he replied, but I wanted to. They sat in silence, listening to the rain outside. Lila leaned back on the couch, the warmth from the tea slowly reaching her fingers. Her body was exhausted, but her heart felt something new, something soft, something terrifying. Lucy shifted in her sleep and rolled into Lila's lap. Her tiny hand gripped Lila's sweater. Lila stroked her hair until the rhythm calmed them both. And then, without realizing it, her eyes fluttered closed. She did not see Alex watching her. He sat there, unmoving, the light from the kitchen casting soft shadows across his face. His gaze lingered on Lila's peaceful expression, the curve of her fingers around Lucy's back, the way her whole being radiated care. His heart did something it had not done in years. It leaned forward. He reached over, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face, and whispered, You don't have to do this alone. Lila stirred, her eyes opened slowly, locking onto his. She said nothing, but her head tilted, and then, gently, she leaned against his shoulder. He did not move. Outside, the storm raged on. But inside that small apartment, a kind of quiet began, warm, unspoken, and real. The photo hit the internet just after sunrise. Alex, stepping out of a modest brick building, a daycare center. In one shot, he was mid-turn, eyes searching behind him, toward a window where Lila had once stood. The headline was brutal. CEO caught, visiting daycare nanny, secret romance or scandal. Within hours, it was everywhere. Blogs, business news, gossip columns. Lila saw the story from a co-worker's phone. Her heart plummeted. By noon, Maya had seen it too. Her message came fast, blunt. So it wasn't just one night, huh? And then, nothing. No reply when Lila responded. No calls answered. No blue check marks. Just silence. Blocked. At Alex's office, tension built. A board meeting was called. The executives sat around a long table, voices low, tones sharp. Who is she? Why are you risking our image? Do you know what this looks like to investors? Alex listened, arms crossed, jaw tight. She's not a scandal, he said calmly. She's a human being, and what we look like to investors doesn't dictate who I care about. You're compromising the brand, one man snapped. Alex stood. His voice dropped a degree colder. If kindness and decency compromise the brand, then maybe we should redefine it. He walked out. Back in her apartment, Lila stared at her phone. Messages from strangers flooded her inbox, some mocking, some cruel, a few sympathetic, but all of them overwhelming. She deleted every app and turned her phone off. That night, while brushing Lucy's hair, the little girl looked up and asked, "Why are people taking pictures of you, Lila?" Lila froze. "Where did you hear that?" Miss Kathy said some man with a camera came to the daycare. She was mad. Lila's stomach twisted. She knew then what she had to do. She packed her things after Lucy fell asleep, left a note for the child's mother, and quietly stepped out of the apartment, heartbreaking but certain. She sent Alex one final message. "I can't be your public lesson in humility, Alex. I'm not a charity case, and I'm not a headline. I'm just trying to protect a little girl from becoming one." She never heard back. But Alex didn't stop moving. He contacted the daycare anonymously and arranged for donations, a full children's library, healthy lunches, art supplies, and winter coats. All delivered under a private foundation name. No credit, no spotlight. He visited in secret after hours, talking to the director about improving safety and staff pay. He asked for nothing in return. Maya learned about it a week later, from Lucy's teacher. "He donated books?" Maya asked. The teacher nodded. "Boxes of them, and the coats, and new snacks for the kids." They said it was someone from Lila's side of things. Later that afternoon, Maya knocked on Lila's door. Lila opened it slowly, her face tired, eyes red from a week of restless sleep. Maya did not speak at first. She just stared, then stepped forward and pulled her friend into a tight, breathless hug. "You're so damn stubborn," she whispered. Lila laughed, a weak, wet sound. "I know." Maya pulled back just enough to look her in the eye. "But maybe you're also really loved." Lila swallowed hard. "You think so?" Maya smiled. "I think he never wanted a scandal. He just wanted you." The rain had long passed, but its echoes lingered in the creaks of Lila's old apartment. One morning as she was sweeping the kitchen floor, she noticed something odd. No puddle near the corner window, no damp smell clinging to the walls. She glanced up. The ceiling had been patched. Smooth, clean, freshly painted. Her breath caught. She had not called the landlord. She had not submitted any request. The leak had been there for weeks, and no one had cared, until now. Later that day, while folding laundry, she noticed Lucy's small jacket had been swapped. The zipper worked again. The fabric was newer, thicker. Not store brand either, something clearly picked with intention. Then came the books. Stacks of them. Colorful covers, glossy pages, titles that made Lucy squeal with excitement. Her teacher handed them to Lila with a knowing smile. "A private donation came in," she explained. "No name attached, but it was requested these go to Lucy's group." Inside one book, Lila found a handwritten note on the first page. "For the little girl who dreams in dragons, may her stories never run out." She ran her fingers over the words. That handwriting, it looked familiar. The next week, their pantry was mysteriously stocked. No one saw who did it. But everything was exactly right. The almond milk Lucy liked, the tea Lila drank when she could not sleep, the cereal with the giraffe on the box. Lila never said a word to anyone. She simply observed, heart aching in slow waves. One quiet night, Lucy lay curled under her blanket, reading one of the new storybooks. Lila tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and turned off the lamp. Just as she was about to leave the room, Lucy mumbled sleepily. "The guy in black brought me books the other day." Lila turned back. "What did you say, sweetheart?" Lucy's eyes fluttered open briefly. "The man in the black coat. He brought the books. I saw him through the window. He didn't come in, but he smiled at me. Lila stood still, heart stilled by the whisper of a child. She didn't ask further. She did not need to. Later that night, Lila sat by the window in the living room. A cup of tea warmed her hands, but the heat came from somewhere deeper, a quiet knowing that someone still cared, even from a distance. Someone who loved in silence. Someone who never needed to be seen, to be present. Her phone lit up on the table beside her. It was a message from Maya. I was angry. I was hurt. But I was also blind. I've been watching you carry the world on your shoulders, and I finally get it. I'm sorry, Lila. Maybe this isn't just coincidence. Maybe this is what fate looks like. Lila held the phone against her chest, eyes filling, not with pain, but with release. She whispered, "Thank you," to the quiet room. She did not know what would come next. But for the first time in a long time, she did not feel alone. She felt seen. She looked over at Lucy's sleeping form. The child stirred, smiling in her dreams. And Lila smiled too. Through the quiet acts of someone who had never asked for anything in return, her world had begun to mend. Not loudly, not publicly, but truly. The cafe was quiet, tucked into a narrow corner between an old bookstore and a florist. No cameras, no headlines, just warm light, the smell of cinnamon, and the hum of a record playing low in the background. Lila stepped through the door, hesitant at first, until she saw him. Alex stood as she approached, but he did not reach for her. He simply smiled, eyes searching hers with something quieter than longing. Something like hope. "Thank you for coming," he said. She nodded, settling into the chair across from him. A mug of tea already waited for her. He remembered. He leaned forward slightly, his hands folded together. "I owe you an apology. A real one." "You do," she said, but her tone was gentle. "I thought protecting you meant hiding everything, controlling the fallout, fixing it all before it touched you." He shook his head. "But that was never what you needed." She studied him, then looked down at her hands. "You walked into my life like a fairy tale, Alex. Wealth, charm, rescue, but fairy tales aren't real. I wasn't sure I belonged in the story." "You do," he said, voice unwavering, "but not as the rescued. As the choice." He